how do you motivate your team? How do we help them see their goals, dreams, and desires? And I think when that happens, boom, you have a shift.
Welcome to Shift, an exclusive podcast by DSN. I'm your host, Blake Mallen, and this is where high-performing entrepreneurs and experts share their most powerful shifts in mindset, skill set, and strategy to help you accelerate your business and amplify your impact. I challenge you to be present, open your mind, and let the shift begin. Welcome to Shift. I'm your host, Blake Mallen, and today we have a very unique privilege, an inspiring couple who met in the industry, have now been married for over 10 years now. Both of them individually are leading, respected direct selling professionals, top producers, top earners, heading massive organizations at, hear me on this one, two totally separate direct selling companies. Can't wait to dive into that story. She began her journey as a former swim coach, now a wife, mother of 5, nana of 8. Over the last 47 years, she has built one of the largest independent direct selling organizations in the world. Matter of fact, in 2019, she received the profession's Lifetime Achievement Award. Her story has been featured in numerous publications, including the Napoleon Hill Foundation's book, Think and Grow Rich for Women, and her position currently is at the helm of the ethics committee for our industry association. I know we're going to have some great conversation around that topic. And her newest book, My Mentor Walks on Water, is already become a bestseller. And he has an equally inspiring journey. From high school dropout to top leader in his company, recognized as a featured trainer at some of the largest industry events worldwide. His purpose: to use his influence to inspire, educate, support, and encourage people to reach their full potential. Today, they reside between Wisconsin, Arizona, and Sweden, and are extremely passionate about giving back and philanthropy. In fact, their charity, Spirit Wings Kids, supports orphanages in India and Africa, along with a permaculture farm and soccer academy in Uganda. This is going to be a very special conversation today, so turn off the background noise, stop the multitasking. I want full presence for this one. Please help me welcome to the show absolute industry icons, Donna Johnson and Thomas Tidlund. How are you guys doing?
Great, Blake. Thank you for having us.
Thank you for the introduction.
Well,
Always
thank you,
humble.
both of you. So I know you reside in multiple areas. Where are you guys coming to us today?
Northern Wisconsin, where you want to be in the summer. It's beautiful on the lake.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you for taking time away from your beautiful family, your growing teams to pour into us today. Super excited about our conversation. So, Don, I gotta admit, so you guys got referred to this show by actually many of our previous guests. So like, you got to have Thomas and Donna on the show. They're amazing. And I just assumed before knowing your guys' full story that you're a dynamic power couple, that we're both building as a couple in the same company, until our kind of pre-conversation where I realized that wasn't a fact. So let's rewind. I would love to hear both of your individual stories on where this crazy journey began in direct selling first, and then the moment that you two became a thing. If you guys can share those moments, would love to hear.
Well, since I've been in longer, I started as a teenager, no college degree. I was a nationally ranked competitive swimmer, swim coach. And when I saw the profession, I got so excited because I knew that I could apply just everything that I applied to be a top ranked swimmer in this profession. No, I didn't want a boss and someone telling me what I could earn. And so I jumped in as a teenager. Little did I know that it would grow to such an amazing, amazing business. So I have seen a lot in 47 years. And I love to tell people I'm completely unemployable because I just love the freedom and flexibility that this business brings. I think it's the best gig in town. And I call it being an apologist. I love being an apologist for this profession.
Thomas, what about you? Where did this journey begin?
Yeah, it began in Sweden, West Coast, Gothenburg, north of Gothenburg. I got introduced from back in the days, 1998, the three of us, we know that was pretty much pre-internet, pre-smartphones, obviously, and all those things. So a US company that came to Sweden, Scandinavia, and Europe. And that's how I got introduced. And it was through a product. I was a professional athlete as well, soccer at the time. And the product helped me. But when I got to know that you could only get them through this company and that there was a compensation tied to it, that's when my eyes were wide open. And, I decided to start building a business. We all heard this ignorance on fire kind of statement. I think that was because it was hard to get educated within it, since your whole core upline was from United States and you were back in a small country in Sweden. Like you stated, I'm a high school dropout. I still don't think I'm great at English, but I was definitely not great at the moment down back there. So it was interesting. It was pretty much working with all the literacy, with the Swedish English dictionary and all those things to get to know. And I wish I could tell you the most amazing success story, but I think then we wouldn't have so much to learn. So I had a pretty, bad failure, I would say. I invested around $2,000 1998. And after 6 months, my biggest check actually was $24. So that,
oh, wow.
That's not much to write home about, but I'm still here.
Well, I know fast forward, and I appreciate you sharing the humble beginnings. And I know fast forward, both of you individually have amazing track records in the industry, have built organizations independently and kind of separate companies on separate continents for a long time. And do I have the story right? Was it the industry that kind of introduced you guys, brought you together? Bring us to the moment where this right here became a thing.
Yeah, I'll let you start.
Yeah, well, the owner of his company was Norwegian, like the founder of my company. He admired the culture that I built in my business. And I had known Thomas professionally, in the audience at events, but not really knew him. And his owner asked me to speak at their leadership retreat in Dubai. And I had never been to Dubai. And I thought, sure. And go to Dubai, fall in love with a Swede. That was over 13 years ago. Like you said, been married 10 years. But all the obstacles, but you live on another continent, but you're in another company. And, we just made it work. And a lot of the building blocks that we believe in for integrity in our business, it was a natural fit. I mean, our dear friend, Sarah Robbins, who told you about me, I mentored her to the top of her company, and she's not in my business, but I just feel like that's how we should operate. Jordan Adler was the best man at our wedding, top earner in another company. So I would love to break all those glass ceilings that people believe about competition and who we are. And we've made it work.
It's such a beautiful story, and I'm just smiling watching your guys' faces as you're talking about each other. And, just to make sure everybody who's listening understands. So fast forward, today, you both are still extremely active at the top of two separate companies, each of you building your own kind of passion, your own organizations, and excelling, obviously, today, a long track record. Donna or Thomas, whoever wants to take it, I want to go a layer deeper there. So it's a beautiful story. I love the vision you just gave us of, wow, this is an example of kind of how we can operate. Take me to the moment where you knew that your relationship was going to be a long-term thing. And was there boundaries or guardrails or what kind of rules between each other? There had to be real conversation. Okay, if we're going to make this work, we got to do X, Y, Z. I'm curious if there's anything kind of practical that you've adopted as kind of rules of engagement, being an amazing married couple, building and leading two separate organizations.
I think I can start there because it comes back. Remember, I started with the US company back in 1998. And then 5 years approximately into that, had a top position there. I was looking for another company because the company I was with did not have a good reordering product. And remember, I was totally new to it. So the more I learned, it became more clear about, a reordering, customer-based kind of. So I was looking for that with no intention to leave my company, but to start and build another business. And I don't know if it was like my naivety or like I was, but that was my goal. And I found one, and that's the one I'm in today, 19 years later. Or 21 years, actually, years later. It took 3 weeks, and they cut my check from my first company. So I was back from scratch. I was young. I didn't save a lot. There was, a lot of money coming in, a lot of money going out. So, but I managed to, get everything going again. And obviously, now we can look back and we have the results of it. But I just want to give you that background. So I was with the Swedish company when we met back in Dubai. So it was my, company that invited Donna. We had ran into each other on a generics event around the globe before that. And through this leadership retreat that we had, we kind of just like was drawn to each other. There was a lunch. We were ending up at the same table. There was an excursion. We were on the same bus, like all those things. And I don't believe things happen like as an accident, everything piles up. And I think if it was the very last night or the second last night of this trip, I invited my now wife to speak at one of my team conference calls. And at the time it was conference calls. There were no Zoom Teams or anything. You got on, a phone line and you had your team dialing into that as well. And you can take it a little bit from there, I think.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I'm there to serve and not fall in love with, one of the leaders, but we discovered that there was definitely chemistry but you live in another continent and all those things. And we've been together ever since. But to your question about how do we do this, it is really quite simple and I believe easy to put into practice because his team loves me, my team loves him. We cross-train, but we don't cross-recruit or sell or any of that. And so just it's very, very, it's a wide open world. His business is more global than mine. You've got team in how many countries?
5 continents.
Yeah, 5 continents. I can't count the countries. And so we just honor that, and it has never been an issue.
I would say we have never had an issue in that setup, but we ran into some scarcity. We ran into some fear from...
We had obstacles. We had pushback. We had people saying that you can't do that. That doesn't work. And honestly, when I think it was people trying to break us up, it actually just brought us closer together. It brought our faith closer. So I really want to encourage anyone that's ever going through an obstacle, like Ray Higdon always says, help the person you used to be. Everything you go through is for a reason. And that valley in our life, it was shortly after our marriage, actually strengthened us and made us better people.
And I think, just rewind a little bit, because I think this is interesting for many too. We are sitting in Dubai, and this is in March 2011, and we are planning to get together in June, I think, again or something. So that's a long time when you fall in love with someone. And we left. Donna went back to US. I went back home to Sweden, and I think it took 2 weeks, and you were back in Sweden. And then after that trip, it took another 2 weeks. I was in Phoenix, Arizona. Yeah. And since then, we've been together more than we've been apart. And I think that's a great testimony of our profession. And if you build something that lasts, you have a freedom that's very, very few people have to have that possibility.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's beautiful. It is an example, and it does show that it is possible to be mature and have a high emotional intelligence and to just be real if you have individuals that are passionate about different things. But I got to ask, because I have this image in my head, and I know this might be immature, but I have this image. You guys are either in Wisconsin right now, and you got Thomas in one room, doing Zooms across the world, and Donna in another room doing Zooms across North America, and this two icons building two separate movements. So what happens when you go to dinner and you meet someone that's brand new for the first
Oh my
time
God.
that you know would be amazing at this business. Like they're amazing. They got desire and heart and they have never heard of it. Like, and
I'll put them
Thomas
under
is
the
like, no,
table.
they'd be great. And Donna would like, no, they'd be great. Like, what do you do? Deal with
It
that.
really works out. We just have discernment and we can just tell. And oftentimes I'll say, I think you'd really be great in my husband's business. And then he'll meet someone and he'll say, I think you would love my wife's business. And so we have just made it work. We don't have any tallies like, I had the last one, it's your turn. It's all, it's really discernment.
Yeah.
And, we just make it work. But every once in a while, I will kick him under the table like, I want to talk to
I love it. I think it's beautiful. And it's a true testament
There's
to who
enough
you
for
guys
everyone.
Yeah, well, and who you are as people, right? So I think it's a beautiful example for all of us. I'm curious. So I'm kind of doing the math. So Thomas, you said 1998. So we're talking 26 years or so, right? I mean, it's a long time in this industry. Donna, we mentioned 47 years on this path. I'm curious, maybe Donna, you first. Like, at what point in your journey was there like a moment or an experience where you knew this was a lifelong career? I'm curious if there was a specific moment or specific decision or specific instance when it went from like something you're dabbling to like, no, this is it.
Yeah. It's when I understood compensation plans. And I was with another company for 10 years before my current business, now 37. It was more of a single level with limited multi-level compensation. And my brothers actually got involved in something else and they showed me some comp plans. And I was like, what? What is this? So I found my current business, did everything ethically, but it was understanding the brilliance of compensation plans. I mean, I'm like a little kid in the candy shop every single time I share this business with someone, because there's nothing like it out there in the universe. And all the tweaking and stuff going on, I get it in the profession with affiliate and influencers and all that. It's simply the first level of our plan. If you really want to put it that way, we don't have to be as behind the curtain and say, we have something more. We can be bold and say, yes, we have more than just that. And so that is when I became a lifer, is when I understood compensation plans and culture and community and amazing products that this business offers. I mean, it had me at hello.
Thomas, you mentioned the word adversities a little while ago in relation to the season you went through together. I'm curious, and it's a hard question because 47 years, Donna, like that's a while. 26 years, Thomas, like that's a while by all definition. I can't even do the math when you put the two of you guys together. Like that's some experience in this industry. If you were to go to all of it, because I know it's not always just highs, is there a certain season, any season, anywhere in your journey that was one of those adversity seasons, those valley seasons, those challenging seasons that maybe taught you the most, whether it was a belief shift or a skill shift or something that challenged? Like, take us to one of those moments at any point, either of your guys' journey, one of those adversity seasons, and maybe some lessons that you got there that you still carry with you today.
I think, honestly, one of the biggest season of adversity was after we met, and the resistance and the fear and the scarcity about that. Because just like we've been talking about today, it's like, how are they going to keep their integrity? They are going to raid each other's company, all those things. And I came, from a Swedish company, my wife with the US company. There's kind of different rules there too. And we actually had to go through a lot because of the policy and procedures. And they are a little bit more, should you call it strict or different here in the US than they are overseas in Europe. So we had to fight fights that I personally don't think you need to fight, but we had to do that. So obviously, if you go and look for me on social media today, you can't see me. I'm not very actively, and still I managed to build my business where it is. And that's by design, because I had to go almost undercover because there were this scarcity where people were turning us in for posts or whatever that could be. And I think that's the biggest learning experience because number one, I had to get over myself. I had to figure it out. I had to hold to those core value, why I was doing this and the impact of doing this. And again, take your ego away a little bit and just figure it out without going in any deep in details on things. But I think that was the biggest and also the biggest blessing. I want to also say that, but that was the biggest season of going through things and figuring out things to is it worth it? Should I continue? All those,
Thomas, what was the biggest lesson you got from that season?
Self-awareness. Work. I worked a lot on myself, and people are running around and look for happiness everywhere. If I only could be happy. And when you're in life, that happiness is a choice. You can just decide to be happy. But self-awareness, when it doesn't matter what people do to you because that's their opinion, their actions, and you just manage yourself and you live after your core values. Like I said, what is wrong even if everybody's doing it, and what's right is right even if nobody's doing it. If that's one of your compass, that's great because then you can make all your decisions from that. Then you can go to bed at night feeling, fulfilled. And so I think self-awareness, and that was not that, today I'm going to start to be more self-aware. I think that I got to dig into that to ride this season of adversity.
I hate that we all as people have to go through the hardest times to get to that point where we know ourselves. Why can't we just get to that point without going through the pain? I wish we could skip it, but that seems to be the common trend in most of the entrepreneurs is you gotta go through the stuff. Getting through it, you come out a different person. And we can feel that in your conversation, Thomas, as you're sharing that with us. Donna, how about you? Was it the same season or was there a different adversity season that gave you lessons?
It was the same season because it was pretty traumatic, but I think that it humbled us. It grew our faith. And sometimes your darkest valley are your biggest lessons and who you become. I mean, for me, my book was birthed from that experience. God just really showed me who I am and what my purpose is. And it's not tied to what other people think and all these other things. And just really understanding what it's like to be that new customer or that new distributor. I think that when people meet Thomas and I both, they just are very surprised just how we can relate to the newest person on the block. And I think it's because of what we've gone through that it's heightened our awareness. And like Thomas said, our self-awareness and just all those things that really matter most. I always say there's no U-Haul at the end of a hearse. And what are the most important things in life? It's the relationships you build. And all those things that fade away.
Well, you mentioned the book. Congratulations on the newest book, My Mentor Walks on Water. And you also mentioned faith, which I know in that book, you dance on both those topics, not only business, but faith and how they intertwine. I'm curious, was faith for both of you always a part of your journey at the same depth from the very beginning when you first enrolled or through all the seasons? Or is that something that's evolved as your business has evolved over the years?
Actually, I kind of fit in the category of, you're not supposed to talk about your faith. And Thomas would be on stage saying, can I talk about this long-haired guy named JC from a favorite book I like to read? And all these people would go, yeah. And I'm like, he's so bold and he's so brave. So he actually inspired me to be more, aware that your faith operates in every area of your life. And it's not just for a Sunday morning. And so I think our faith has grown because of our relationship. We're stronger now.
You mentioned something, Thomas, earlier on kind of social media and kind of going underground. I'm curious, and I want to get a perspective from both of you on your building styles, how you individually lead and build today. But before we go into building styles, you also mentioned self-awareness. And thank you for sharing kind of your evolution, that pain season you went through that gave you that self-awareness. My question for you, Thomas, is in your coaching hat. So as you're leading individuals, leading entrepreneurs, on that topic of self-awareness, is that something you think is like super important for an entrepreneur building an organization today? Is there any guidance you give to people that are open to that journey on like where they begin? Like how do you begin? How do you become more self-aware? Where do I start? What does that even mean? Where do I go? How do you coach somebody that is intrigued by your story, that wants to take steps forward for themselves?
I'm not a very good person on listicles, like, oh yeah, if you do point one, point B, I'm more about conversation and having the teaching moments from there, because my experience is not the same as your experience. So for example, I can give you so many books, tips, for example, but I can never say that you have to read this, because you have your season, you have your, growth to go through. So it has to come to you naturally. Obviously, there's some fundamental things, but for me, it comes back to conversation, and it comes back to a lot of, AQ. IQ, most people know where it is. EQ, people know where it is, but AQ is, adversity quotient. And so when people go through things, that's when you learn the most, and that's when you can have the conversation. So to add to that, I think personal development is super important. It's the mindset, super important. It's just that from day one, you don't need to preach it or teach it. It comes because from day one, you have your enthusiasm, you have your fire within and all those things. So right thing in the right order. It comes back to mindset. I'm a total mindset coach. I'm not the how-to coach. Obviously, I know all the how-tos, but I also know that it's the mindset that will take you where you want to go. So it's, but most people are eager, with their notebooks and, oh, give me the how-tos, give me the how-tos. And then when you talk about mindset, most people are not so engaged, but still that's where you run into problems when you don't expand this piece up here.
I wrote down AQ. I love that. Adversity quotient. I've actually never heard it put that way, but what you're saying makes sense. Like it's through the adversity seasons that we do become more aware. And I love how you say just having conversations with people when it comes to their own experience, their own adversity seasons. And what I'm hearing in your story, Thomas, is just for all of us, even myself, are you going back and reflecting on those seasons and extracting the lessons and who you're becoming? So I think that's amazing for all of us in our own AQ, adversity quotient, and as leaders, helping people navigate their own adversity. Let's talk building styles, because I'm not going to let you, just throw that out there. I want to go deeper, because I heard you say, oh, I'm not on social media, right? So maybe, Don, I'll go back to you to start. You guys are independent leaders. You build different companies, different brands, different categories, different continents. What's your building style, Donna? How do you define kind of how you're actively engaging and building today? And then, Thomas, I'll ask you the same question. I'm curious if they're the same or they're different.
There's a lot of things that have changed over the years, but in person has always been big for me. I lead an amazing team, and we've got a great system for trainings and everything. And I still personally enroll just to stay relevant and understand the game. Obviously, with shifting and being an author, I've opened up a whole new market for people for attraction. But so much of it, you're not going to see me out there in social media doing a lot to build my business there. Everyone is different, but that's just what's worked for me. And it's a great pace for me as well.
Yeah, and one thing that I feel it's served me very well is to see people, work with people's strength. And I think that's kind of the opposite, because most people try to make someone who they are not. Join us, but you have to do this, have to do this, have to do that. But when you have people and let them be who they are and elevate that will work out. And people are a little bit, I think it's a leadership shift from, you can lead with force, or you can lead from power. And I use power, come from that instead of force.
Go deeper there, Thomas. What do you mean by power? Where does that power come from?
empower people. Like you don't like, if you don't do this, you like, that's more force. You have to, and that also this is one of our go-to conversation too at the dining table. Like, how do you like motivate your team? And I think if someone that joins our business, when they see the compensation plan, when they understand it, and so on, for me, that should be the motivation by itself. I shouldn't have to dingle a Louis Vuitton bag or, an extra thing for you to go out and get the customer or something, So there's so many people out there. So we don't have to kind of choke people to do things like, how do we find their fire? Like how do we help them see their goals, dreams, and desires? And I think when that happens, boom, you have a shift. Yeah. So that's one thing. And also when you have people and that, work on their strengths, you will attract amazing people like Donna have, like I have, that are like top notch at social media. That's like way ahead on AI and things like that. And for me, I'm just grateful for that. I don't need to be the person that has to be the best.
Let them have the stage. Let them have the microphone. That's us. And I think it's more leading from servant leadership versus a title. And I think people are attracted to that because we're not anyone's boss. And they will know you, like you, trust you, and want to stay working with you because not of your position, but because of how you empower people.
One thing that came to me, Blake, I would love to share it. It's 3 C's, because when people, and this goes for like the field or company, like why, like how, if a company do well or if it do bad, or if a field like a leader do well or bad, there's a couple of components that I feel needs to be in place, and call it 3 C's, where the first is choice. People have to have options to feel that relief of freedom, like, because if they come from a self-employment or an employment or something else, they have someone designing their lives pretty much. But here you have to have that choice of freedom. That's why I like to let people work on their strengths. And then the second C would be connection. People want to belong to something, something greater than themselves. They want to feel that belonging. That's why team culture are so important. And it's very, very difficult for a company to create that culture. It most often comes from the team and the field. And then the third C would be competence. People need to have the option number one, they need joy in learning, to become better and to grow and have that freedom to flourish.
Well, Thomas, you said you weren't good at listicles, and you just gave us a pretty amazing list. So I wrote down choice. Yeah. We got to allow people to have choice, to pursue their own version of freedom. I love that. Meet people where they are, focus on their talents and gifts, identify and raise what those are for themselves. Connection, belonging, especially today, and competence, developing the skill and the potential. I think that's an amazing framework. I love the whole power over force. I think those are great. And in today's day and age, as I'm sure if we were to spotlight your teams across the world, we've had a lot of people that are like really good at certain skills. They're ninjas at TikTok or personal branding, or they got their posting cadence down and how to convert social into conversations. And there's a place for all of that. Mm-hmm. And for everybody listening, I want to make sure this isn't misunderstood. Thomas, Donna, what I'm hearing from you guys is you support that within the team. You probably have people that are those ninjas within the team.
Yes.
You've chosen as leaders, based on your skill set, to be more heart-centric, mindset-centric, figure out where people's gifts are, elevate them, and pass the baton, shine the spotlight, elevate leaders within the group. And I love this point because there are listeners that maybe aren't the TikTok ninja, or maybe aren't the Instagram ninja, or maybe aren't the face on the reels out there. And they're looking at your guys' story, saying, well, maybe there is another way to lead to get to where they want. So thank you for being that example. I think it's great because it's a little different than maybe some of the past guests, and not to devalue those skills. Those skills are work today.
And I think it really brings out, Blake, the comparison game that goes on. I have seen so many shiny penny chasers where I just know what works. I like to lead with the business because I think it's the best product we have. But you lead with the story and you find the fit. And I haven't deviated from that, even though there's been all this noise out there. We'll do it this way and do it that way or do it that way. I just really stayed consistent. And when you have the comparison game going, you start to get FOMO and fear of missing out. Well, I must have missed the boat. And then you try to pivot, and then that ship has already sailed, right? Mm-hmm. And we're back to in person or whatever is going on. So I think this concept helps people from burnout, because when you're not comfortable in your own skin and where you are leading and growing, you can really get burnt out.
What are the main shifts that you are seeing or feeling or leading your communities through today, like here and today, that are shifts? They are different than maybe in the past. I'm curious your perspective.
I may use the wrong word, but let's say down to earth, where it's like the truth is good enough. So let's take it from there. And then when you listen to me, you hear I come back to long-term vision, to adversity. One thing that I talk a lot about is your problem is your promotion. Whatever obstacle you need to go through, that's where you promote. And so I think instead of all the hype and I want to be careful how I use word, but I would say back to basic when it comes to start here and grow yourself and grow your business and build a business. And it's time and effort that will take you where we want to go. Mm-hmm. But in today's DNA, it's now. And 10 years ago, we were talking about the same, because the world is, continuing to innovate. So it's been now for a long time, but now more than ever, I would say, with everything noise going around. It's okay to take time, like 12 months, 18 months, 24 months. That's like nothing when it comes to your lifetime or your life cycle. And think about it. If you, for example, if you don't know where you want to be 5 years from now, you are already there, because those 5 years is going to go like this and there's nothing happen. So if you do a little shift, there will be a shift.
Yeah.
Thomas, what did you say? I just want to make sure I capture. Did you say the truth is enough? Truth is enough? Or what was your true statement?
Yeah, truth is enough. Good. Truth is good enough, I would say, when it comes to...
Truth is good enough.
Yeah. Or the compensation plan is good enough.
Which is, if you're looking at the company, whatever company you're looking at, when you're looking at the compensation ladder or compensation plan, you find out, okay, this is what I want to earn. You need to do the numbers, and then it's like, you are not the failure if it takes 12 months, 18 months, 24 months, or 6 years, just because someone else did it faster.
Well, Donna, I want to open up this potential rabbit hole here on ethics. Number one, thank you on behalf of the industry for chairing right now. I know you're the kind of current lead on the ethics committee for one of the largest associations, a volunteer position, as I understand it, which I'm sure is selfless and time, effort, energy, all the things. And in the short time I've had a chance to build a relationship with you two, we can feel your heart. We know you're doing that because of what this industry has done for you and your family and people. You believe in it. Everything you're giving to us, you're trying to unite in order to get better. And I'm sure you stepping into that position and putting time and effort is a big step to try to create change. So I'm going to ask you kind of a loaded question, and I don't mean to put you on the spot. I don't know if anybody's asked you this directly. But let's say you had the whole industry that somehow heard this conversation. And let's say everybody could kind of hear your wish or your vision on like Ethics 101. Ethics 101, like the basics. Like, let's just start at the starting line. What are those, we have the 10 commandments. Like, here's what we follow. Like, it's pretty straight, it's simple, it's clear, it's short.
Yeah.
What does that look like? Like Ethics 101 for our industry, just your opinion, your perspective.
Doing the right thing in the right way for the right reason. That to me is just such a foundational principle. Do the right thing, do it in the right way. Some people do the right thing, but they don't do it in the right way or for the right reason. We're human. We're all going to make mistakes, but just really having some ethical guidelines to live by, and not that fear of missing out and compromising your values or your integrity for the sake of money or power or fame. if people could understand, biblical principles of success. And like Thomas said, so what if it takes longer? Shortcuts, things like that. I've even had people say to me, well, you're already earning a great income. And you're at the top. So it's easy for you to build your business ethically now. And I'm like, but I always have, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's sort of like giving. I've had people say, oh, what you're doing in Uganda is amazing. When I'm successful like you, I'm going to do something like that. And I always say, start now wherever you are and give. And then as your business grows, your giving is going to grow too. It's just incremental. So whatever it is that you want to be, start now and don't compromise. And just like Thomas said, even if everybody is doing it this way and it's not right, stick with your values. And your tug, TUG, your tug is the ultimate guide. And then surround yourself. I think it's important that we hold each other accountable in our profession. And the more silo dropping we do, and the more unity we have and conversations that we have, building bridges between field and corporate and owners and other companies, all these things. We have a lot of work to do, but I believe it's possible.
I love the definition you gave, and I know I put you on the spot, but I can tell that you obviously have opinions and have thought deeply on this, and I think it was a perfect answer. So do the right things for the right reasons, for the right people, no matter what. And that's not circumstantial. That's just, It is. And Thomas, you kind of stated earlier, your values are your values. And I love the way you put that. What's right is right if nobody's doing it. What's wrong is wrong if everybody's doing it. And you guys are kind of very much on the same page. I'm just curious. I know we can have another show later, Donna, and probably could be a whole episode just on ethics. But I think what you gave is a great starting point. Where does that begin? Is that like, for us that's listening, for leaders across so many companies and brands that might get this episode or have it shared with them, where does that conversation start? Does it start at the company level with policies and procedures? Does it start at an industry level with some sort of guidelines? Or does it start at a field level or individual level? Where do you think the first steps begin?
All of the above, just dropping those silos, establishing friendships, being able to pick up the phone and speak to people directly instead of the rumor mill, just all of the above. I know that there seems to be a lot of organizations specific for C-suite and owners and, field, they're not allowed. I just think that we're all in this together and all of the above, really.
I'm going to ask you a hard question, and I'm just curious your honest answer. Truth is good enough. I'm a believer in people. I think everybody listening to both of your stories, you guys are heart-centric. You're values-driven. You believe in people. I love the mention. Everybody is good in God. Right? I love that. I'm in that camp as well. I think. Right. I would put myself there as a person, and I think a lot of our listeners probably hearing all of this are nodding their head, being like, yes, yes, yes. But I'm going to give you the but. How do you navigate or how do you deal with certain situations where it appears like there's individuals involved that maybe aren't in that camp?
Prayer.
Yeah.
Honestly, surrender, prayer, discernment, seeking guidance for what is the right thing. To me, prayer. I had a friend recently come with a situation and I said, have you taken it to prayer? Like, what are you feeling? What are you hearing? And sometimes we just want to jump and do something and fix something right away. And we really just sometimes need to seek our higher power. And, but wow, that's a really good question. We're in the world. There is going to be all kinds of challenges. And so we shouldn't be shocked, right? But I think that the more that we can model the right behavior, doing the right thing in the right way for the right reason, people get uncomfortable with that culture if that's not their culture, right? And so if we can model that culture more and more across the board everywhere, it becomes a sort of a standard for how we operate.
Because I want to be mindful of time, and I do want to leave any time for closing thoughts or anything we haven't covered yet that's on your heart. Before we get to closing thoughts, though, can we just do a super rapid fire round? Can I ask you guys 3 quick questions? You give me the first answer that comes to mind in 1 sentence or less. Can we do it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Of course.
Okay, so this is just kind of for fun, and there's no right or wrong answer here. But it really has to do, actually, Thomas, with the point you made earlier on the power of a shift. So the reason the show is called Shift is not just because we're in a season of shift. That's obvious, we are. The world's changing. Our channel is changing. Many of us are navigating shifts in our companies and our communities. That's a fact. But I'm a huge believer that the right shift mentally, mindset at the right time can change everything. And you guys have already given us shifts on your own journey, just in your answers that have been beautiful. But to ask you direct questions, Thomas, I'll start with you, then Donna, same question. What's one shift in your professional life, your career as a direct selling entrepreneur, that has been the most significant for you to date? You went from telling yourself one thing to telling yourself something else, a mind shift, or one that comes to mind, Thomas, in one answer, in one sentence or less.
When I started to grow me and serve you. So that's when the biggest shift happened.
Beautiful. Donna?
For me, I think it's gratitude, always operating in gratitude, because when you have gratitude, all the negative thoughts and everything else just fades away when you have a grateful heart.
Second question, same question, but on your personal journey. So when you look at who you are as individuals today, direct selling, entrepreneurship, business aside, just as people at a human level, what's one of the most significant shifts that you've had that have led you to becoming who you are today?
For me, it's stop listening to the chatter of the world and what other people are thinking and saying, and listen to the one who matters and who tells me who I am. So really getting back with my identity based on that, and not all the chatter in the world. I wish I would have known that a long time ago, by the way.
That's why we're having this show, is our listeners are getting the most significant shifts in your life, so we can grab them as our own. That's amazing. Thomas, same question.
Yeah, don't settle for less. It's so easy to just settle, but it's think about it like this: God has a bar for your life. It's not your job to lower that bar.
Yeah.
That's so, you are worth it. That's kind of and it comes back to yourself again, but you understand those things, you are worth it. Then shift.
Yes. Yep.
I mean, Thomas, you were throwing the one-liners today and the visuals. I'm telling you, this stuff is good.
Always.
Okay, last question. This is like on this last shift question. This is kind of the visionary. I think about just the power, right, of direct selling united. Yeah. Both of you, through this whole conversation, you've talked about collaboration, bringing everybody together, lowering the silos. So let's say you could snap your fingers right now and you had that power to give every single direct selling entrepreneur, all the names we call ourselves across all the companies and all the brands. Let's say you had the ability to give everybody a single mind shift right now as a gift.
I'm going to build on what Thomas said about not settling and not lowering the bar that God has for you. We're used to setting believable and achievable goals. What if God just has audacious, crazy goals for you that you couldn't even comprehend? I know when he showed me this book, he said, we're going to have net-breaking, boat-sinking results. And so if you can comprehend something bigger that you can build than you could ever dream of. I didn't have a college degree. I grew up in a lower middle class family that, I wore my cousin's hand-me-downs. We had toast for dinner sometimes. And so this life is just net-breaking, boat-sinking from what I ever dreamed. And so I want you to see your future as bigger and brighter than you could even imagine.
Thomas?
And I would say when you get started in this journey in direct sales, our profession, see it as a part-time, an extra income stream that you work on, and emphasize the work. Because if you look at life as a marathon, a marathon is not a sprint. But also, I want to say this: we heard, success loves speed and all those things. And if the three of us decided to run a marathon, for example, and then we would look into the world record in marathon, I don't think any of us would pace that for 1 kilometer, that the average speed for the world record holder for a marathon is. So that means that even if you're in a marathon, you have to move forward. You have to have certain amount of speed in that. So I think don't settle for wishful thinking. Like be ready to go out and work for your dream. Don't shy away from get dirty. Like get your working boots and gloves on and go out and grab what's up for you to grab, because there's enough for everybody.
And something you always say, and I'll close with this, Thomas always says, nothing is easy, but who wants nothing?
Yeah, nothing is easy. Yeah, but who wants nothing?
You guys are amazing. And I'll give you time for any other closing thoughts if you have any on your mind. But we have covered so much in the time that we have had here today, from your stories, which are incredible journeys individually, to the two of you coming together. The lessons from your own moments on adversity and how going through those seasons can actually, in hindsight, be some of the most blessed seasons we have in our life. And I love the guidance you gave on how to reflect us as individuals and guide other people through those seasons. Faith and how that can be applied to business and in a way that is meaningful and moves people. Self-awareness as something we can aspire to and steps that we can take. Different building styles. Like, I love it. Two of you here and you're approaching things from a different light than many of our other guests. And it's working at an amazing level. We can all show up as we are and empower people where they are. Obviously, the shifts and the perspective you guys bring. I love the directive on ethics and where we can all start just doing the right things for the right reasons. And all of us can learn to become, not apologize for the industry, but an apologist, and so many other nuggets from today's conversation. Before we round out, guys, is there anything else that we haven't covered on your mind or your heart that you want to leave us with before we close out the conversation?
Just don't forget to have fun and keep your priorities in order. I think that's so important. My business is not my idol. And so I try to live my life appropriately. I know Thomas and I both do. So just have fun. This is a people business. Love on people, serve people, make it about that. And I promise you will always be re-energized when you think about what you can accomplish and to help so many people.
Absolutely. And I would say this, if you do what you need, if you're looking at this and you're working with your business and you do what you know you need to do, and it feels like nothing is happening, everything is happening. So just have faith, because faith doesn't always instantly deliver to you, but I promise you, it always carries you through. So I will just end with that.
You guys are both a light. Thank you for your time and energy today. Thank you for your heart today. Thank you for sharing your experience, your wisdom, your wounds and your scars with all of us today. And thank you for everything you're doing, not just for the communities you lead on a day-to-day, but for what you're doing for us as a profession and a channel to really elevate the opportunity for all of us. So thank you for being those examples and for pouring into us. And for all of our listeners, thank you for hanging with us today. This has been a gift. This has been a gift. And I know if you're listening, you're leaving after today's conversation with your heart full. There is something that I know you can get from Thomas and Donna and what they gave to us today that you can apply immediately to accelerate your business, to elevate your life, and a shift is a gift. So please take the time to share this conversation with others. It's the only reason we're all here pouring into you, is to make an impact. And I would love for everybody in this channel to hear the vision and the example that Thomas and Donna gave us today. So share us. You guys know where we are. If you want a simple link, shiftpodcast.com. You can find us on all the places. For those that love to listen, Apple, Spotify, Audible. I recommend finding your way to YouTube so you can see Thomas and Donna. They're glowing, the energy they brought on video. You can find us on YouTube, shiftpodcast.com. Donna, Thomas, thank you guys for the time today and everything you continue to do. And for everybody else out there, let's make the shift. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, Blake.